Welcome to the Startup Society's virtual summit on special jurisdictions in a post-COVID world. I'm Natalie Garcia. I'm going to be your MC, and I'm very excited that all of you have joined us today for this historical moment. We have about 30 talks. We have 60 speakers, 50 speakers, and we are, well, I don't want to take too much of your time because we have so many great speakers that I really just want to give them the stage. But why don't we hear directly first, before we begin with Roger Ver, with the person who has made all this possible. Oh, very important, this event is brought thanks to the Joel and Rachel Baumgart Foundation. So please, ladies, gentlemen, cats, dogs, everyone who is joining you, welcome Joseph McKinney, President of the Startup Societies Foundation.
We're incredibly excited to have this event, and I think there's a lot of people here that not only have a lot of vision and work ethic and drive, but also have an ability to make things happen and decision-making ability, as a lot of our speakers demonstrate. So, thank you. Thank you for the applause. To cap all this off, to start all this off, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. Question number one. How can you live your life stuck between four walls? How can you sleep fearing that your loved ones may be ill at any time? And how can you stay sane in a world that appears to be ending? But this is not the beginning of the end. It isn't even the end of the beginning. It is the very start of something miraculous. Many are mourning the loss of their normal lives, but we have the opportunity to make our next days better than any of the ones before it. I know it's tempting right now to be fearful and panic. I would be lying if I said I haven't done my fair share myself. But every couple of generations, the people are given the opportunity to build the scaffolding for a new world. If we don't act now, we may lose the opportunity forever, or simply reconstruct a worse version of that old one. But we're not going to let that happen. We are called to arms, and we will build, and we will pick up our tools, and we will build, and we will gather our equipment, and we will build. We will seize our laptops and play it as an instrument until we manifest a new future. We will build. We will not despair, curse the sky, and throw up our hands, waiting for the chaos and darkness to end. Do not panic. Build. But creation is not some romantic, constantly fun process. It's long hours, uncertainty, embarrassment, and frustration. It's also triumph, impact, and success itself. There is nothing more satisfying than seeing the fruits of your labor coming to life in your hands. It is a drive. It's a way of being. We need to spread that urge everywhere. We need scientists creating vaccines and treatments, engineers to construct better ways to transport goods and people, harnessing new forms of energy to manifest the future. All of us need to construct this new, complex, beautiful future in millions of different yet interconnecting ways. We need to jumpstart the collective process of our global future. Unfortunately, vision and work ethic are not the only limiting factors to this new world. We can't boil this down to a cultural inability to emphasize building. Innovation is largely hampered by large, blind institutions. These organizations are powered by a distant memory of prestige, but now they're just a weight on our collective shoulders. That's not to say that we should not have mechanisms or institutions. They can be core to reducing transaction costs, facilitating trust, and enabling a common network. But we cannot operate under organizations whose foundations are so firmly rooted in the past, with little possibility of shifting towards the future. We need new ones built on new premises and new technology. But making new institutions sounds ridiculous, right? It's similar to someone if someone said they wanted to build a mountain or end death and taxes. Yet institutions are built by individuals. In the beginning, they might not have their full force, but the cornerstones placed by their founders accumulate into organizations that not only transcend individuals, but even entire generations. To do so, there are 3 M's required: the right moment, the right method, and the right movement. I don't have to argue that this is a historical moment. It is clear as the 4 walls you're trapped in. Few moments in history have spurred such radical political and economic responses. The implications in geopolitics, civil liberties, and political economy will dwarf 9/11 completely. Our existing health and financial institutions lie in embarrassing shambles. People know that something will change. If there's any moment in history where we're rethinking institutions, now it's the time. But timing alone won't work. An effective strategy is necessary. Institutions may be failing, but they still exist and their influence is firmly in place. We need to create nimble methods of trying different forms of governance in conjunction with existing forms of governance while providing beneficial alternatives. We firmly believe that special jurisdictions fit the bill. After China experienced one of the greatest famines in human history, they needed to reform. But they couldn't do so all right away. So they took different areas within China to try new experiments. One such zone was Shenzhen, a sleeping fishing village of 30,000 people. And exactly 40 years ago today, it became the world's first special economic zone. And it now has the same population as, it has a population of 18 million and the same GDP as Ireland, Portugal, or Vietnam. Now much of China's centers are SEZs, and much of its policy changes and institutions were built by them. SEZs have grown in recent years. Now they total 5,400 worldwide and indirectly support the jobs of tens of millions. However, many fail, and they focus on warehousing and exporting and helping fossil fuels. Some are even built for single companies seeking privileges and subsidies. But now there's a new wave of special jurisdictions creating more inclusive and sustainable forms of economic growth. They have greater autonomy, more innovative forms of government, and they focus on residential aspects of eco-villages and intentional communities. The impact of these experiments cannot be overstated. In fact, when we did a study measuring their possible impact, it could be 3% to the host nation of their annual growth. But like I said, there needs to be a movement that backs it up. And that's precisely what the Startup Societies Foundation means to do. It's meant to create a common network where people can exchange human capital, collaborate, and also exchange best practices. The goal of the Startup Societies Foundation is to be a public goods institution to facilitate all this. Things that we have done to further that goal are create popular content, conferences such as this, research organizations like the Institute for Competitive Governance, the only active academic peer-reviewed journal in the space, a 600-page book so entrepreneurs like yourself can build it from a startup society from a small building to a large city, and the largest dashboard of special economic zones in the world. So that's why we're here. People can often downplay the importance of conferences, especially in an era where physical ones are not possible. But in this day and age, a digital conference has just as much weight. And in fact, it can have more weight because of the reach it can provide. Like Natalie said, there are people here from 5 different continents, and our speakers are amazing. And I want to thank every single one of you. I am positive that each of you will contribute to the collective building that we need to do. And we're going to start with institutions. We're going to start with governance. You're going to start your own startup society.